Welcome to Well 50, Wellness Reimagined. I'm Ellen Funk, and this is my podcast. This episode is the wellness plan that works for you. Because let's face it, the only plan that works is the plan that works for you. And that is different for every person. I love the quote, healthy is an outfit that looks different on everybody. But the truth of the matter is, you are the only one who can figure out what plan and what program works for you. There's great power in that because you're in charge of your destiny. But I also know that that can be very overwhelming. But I've got your back. In this podcast, we are going to go over the questions that you need to answer to determine your wellness plan. We're going to talk about how to craft your plan and how to get started executing it. So, what is wellness? Wellness is really the combination of three things: movement and exercise, your nutrition or the food that you eat, and your mindset. All three of these things are critical to creating sustainable health and wellness. And that's also part of the challenge, right? Because it seems overwhelming when you look at changing all three of those aspects of your life. But again, I'm going to help because we're going to break it down into small, simple changes that add up. That's really the only approach that I have ever seen work. And that is what my whole work and philosophy is based on. So, to get started, first of all, I'm going to say it's a given that you want to make some changes in your life, right? So the place that you need to start before you start to make those changes is to answer the question, why? You always have to start with your why, or what is your motivation for making these changes? And the truth of the matter is that there are good and bad motivations out there for making changes, especially with health, wellness, weight, fitness, diet, things like that. This has been studied a lot. And the majority of people say that their motivation is that they want to lose weight or that they want to be healthier in general. But it turns out that those are really bad motivations. It's not that they're not good things, right? Some people have to lose weight or want to lose weight, and everybody wants to be healthier, right? But it turns out that that doesn't actually motivate people very well. It doesn't actually get you to make these changes. You will be far more successful if you choose a motivation or a why that provides you with immediate gratification. We're human beings. We like immediate feedback. So, what are some examples of immediate gratification motivations? Well, one thing you could do is you could say you want to increase your energy. You want to have better energy and not be dragging during the day or at the end of the day. Another motivation could be you want to be stronger and you want to have more stamina. Maybe you want to be stronger to pick up your grandchild or have more stamina to play an extra hour of pickle. A lot of women really like that motivation, or that's very effective for a lot of women. Maybe you want to reduce your stress. Maybe you find yourself as a professional in midlife still kind of on the stress roller coaster, and you really want to figure out ways to get that under control because stress can make you sick. Or maybe you just want to feel better. Maybe you have some mental health issues, and maybe you've suffered with anxiety or depression, or just in general, your body doesn't feel great, and you want to address that. Finally, another really great immediate gratification motivation is that you want to accomplish what you set your mind to do. We're human beings. Let's take it from a type A. We like to check things off our list. And if you say that you're going to do this, that's a great motivation to get you out to do it, right? Any of those motivations will provide you with immediate gratification, which is really important because on those bad days when you just don't feel like doing what you're supposed to do, it'll get you through. Your why or your motivation is unique to you. And so it's really important to spend a little time, not hours, but really think about why you want to do this. And again, try to make it not scale related and try to make it something that is going to give you immediate feedback. Okay? The next step is to pick what you want to change. Now, we talked earlier about looking at movement and nutrition and mindset and making changes to all those things, particularly at the same time, is overwhelming. Not only is it overwhelming, it's extremely ineffective. Any program that has you trying to do that from the get-go is probably not going to be successful, okay? So it's important to pick one thing at a time that you really want to focus on. So I'm going to use movement as an example and how we could have that be our first thing that we decide we want to move. So say you just want to move more every day. You know what the guidelines are, or we go through the guidelines, and they say that everybody should move or exercise 150 minutes a week. Okay, so that breaks down to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Okay? Maybe that seems like too much for you. You just don't know how you're going to carve that out. That's fine. Just decide where you're going to start. And it's really important, again, when we have our focus on making this work for you, that you set realistic goals. Goals that will work with how much time you have to give to this, your skill set, your budget, okay? There's lots of stuff that you need to look at and decide, is this going to work from the beginning, okay, for me? Not is this going to work for my next door neighbor or my buddy that's doing this with me? Is this going to work for me? So say the 150 minutes is just too much. Say you decide you want to walk 15 minutes a day. Okay? That's a simple, reasonable goal. So you decide to make a plan. That's the next thing to do. After you decide what you're going to do, you want to make a plan to make it easier to be successful. So you're going to ask yourself, what? What am I going to do? You're going to walk. When am I going to do it? I'm going to do it after work. I'm going to walk for 15 minutes a day after work. Where am I going to do it? I'm just going to do it in my neighborhood, okay? So ask yourself all of these questions so that you know exactly what you're going to do, and you're going to figure out how you're going to track it, okay? Because tracking it will give you a sense of success, and it's also important that you're telling yourself you're taking this seriously. So you can track it on your phone, on a calendar, however you want to do it, okay? So once you decide what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, all that stuff, and how you're going to keep track of it, the next step is to ask yourself, what might stop you from achieving this goal? And really think about it and kind of address it. If you know that you are dead tired after you get home from work, or you often have things that interfere with your schedule when you get home from work, maybe your husband always has a million things he wants to do, or you still have kids at home and they're always demanding your attention. Maybe that from the get-go you can identify that's not a good time. So then let's try to move it to a different time. Things like that, okay? So after you've answered all these questions and you have your plan, I want you to just start. Start walking 15 minutes a day. Do it for at least a week. And after you've done whatever your change is that you're starting to incorporate for a week, I want you to ask yourself these questions. How do I feel? Did that feel good? Was it good to accomplish it? How did it feel physically? And how was it mentally? If it's too much physically, then figure out a way to change it, okay? Because this is about making this work for you. And then after you ask yourself how you feel and if it works, ask yourself, is this sustainable? Did you bump into constant problems doing it at this time? Or did you bump into constant problems just walking? Maybe it's January and you just really can't walk outside, so you really have to think of somewhere else to do it, okay? After you ask if it's sustainable and making any little tweaks that you want to make, Then the next thing to ask yourself, and you're going to do this all through the process, is this enough? Okay. Am I exercising enough to feel like I'm making some changes? Do I feel a little bit healthier? Do I have a little bit more energy? Do I feel, a little bit less stressed? And if it's enough and you feel like this is where you want to stay for a while, that's great. And if it's not getting you exactly where you want to go, think of how you can step it up. You're not going to step it up forever, but when you start with these small things, you want to build on them till you reach your goals, right? So let me give you another example of how we can do this. Maybe you decide you want to start with your nutrition or your food, okay? Again, I encourage you to look at what the guidelines are for and again, high level, don't get all caught up in the minutia of this. High level, what are the guidelines for food? Like healthy eating is a balance of protein, carbs, and fat at every meal. That's at its most basic. And especially for we midlife women, getting enough protein is extremely important for our bone, muscle, all our health. But it's also something most of us don't do. So maybe that's your goal. I am going to try to get 100 grams of protein every day. Okay? Maybe that's your goal. Or you're just going to eat protein at every meal. That's another way to address it. Again, you're going to make a plan. You are going to think about what kind of meals will help you meet those nutritional needs. You're going to ask yourself, is this a realistic goal? Okay. And you, again, want to look at your nutritional needs, your time, your cooking skills, your taste, your budget, all that kind of stuff. But my guess is you can figure out how to do healthy meals. So then you're going to say, what do I need to have in the house? And when am I going to prepare these meals? Am I going to do food prep on the weekends so that I have, protein meals in the refrigerator all week? Or am I going to just make sure I have high protein ingredients around? Am I going to go out and order some powders or, some protein powders or some things? Again, do a little work to set this up so that you can be successful. And ask yourself, again, what might stop you from achieving your goal? And address any of those things. Don't pick foods. Don't tell yourself you're going to have salmon for dinner every night when you get tired of salmon after once, okay? Or don't tell yourself that you're going to do food prep if you've never once done food prep, okay? Maybe just buying stuff and having it in the refrigerator is going to work better, especially to just kick it off. Again, we can always improve this. We're just getting started. So get started and do it for at least a week. And again, ask yourself these same questions. How do I feel? Do I have more energy because I'm eating more protein? Am I filling up on protein so I'm eating less carbs? Or am I having less cravings for sweets and things like that? Ask yourself, how am I feeling physically? How am I feeling mentally? Is this really taxing to come up with these meals? And answer those questions honestly if you need to make any changes. Ask yourself, is this sustainable? And if the answer is no, then make some little tweaks and figure out what you need to do to make it work. Finally, I'm going to give my last example, and this is a mindset example. And mindset is one of those things that we all know is really important, and I think we all can feel when it backs up on us when we don't have a great mindset, but it's also one of the harder ones to address. So I'm going to address something that often comes up when people start to try to improve their wellness, and that is that they don't have enough time to do this, okay? That they're working, they have a family to take care of, they have a spouse to take care of, they have charity stuff. They just don't have enough time to dedicate to, exercising, working on their mindset, and eating right. The truth of the matter is we all have enough time. It's that we don't always have a great priority system. And your wellness is one of the most important things in your life. And so, in addressing this time issue, which I address with the majority of my clients at one point or another, you have to decide, again, in your mindset, that this is important, and then you are going to make time for it. You are going to treat it like work, or you're going to treat it like a project, or you're going to even treat it like your time with your family. And sometimes, in order to make enough time to do this, you may have to give something up. I'm not talking about giving up your family. Maybe you have to give up social media for a little bit, or cut back on it, or maybe you are just going to have a little bit less time to binge TV at the end of the day. Whatever it is, you know your time, you know what takes it up, and you are going to feel better and have more energy once you start doing this. So figure out how you can make the time. And again, we're starting small, so we're not talking about carving out many, many hours. So again, we're going to go back to all the stuff I've been talking about all along, this framework. You're going to make a plan, and you're going to set realistic goals of when you're going to do this stuff. And you're going to tell yourself what you're going to do and when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it. And again, it's going to work with the rest of your life, even if you have to finagle your life around a little, because let's face it, life's about change, right? And these changes you're making to greatly benefit yourself. Then I want to ask you, what might stop you from achieving this goal? If you have a job that consistently goes into overtime or gets you working late hours, then don't try to do all this stuff after work, okay? Maybe get up a little earlier and do it. Working out in the morning is one of my secrets to success. But whatever it is, think ahead of time what might stop you from achieving your goal, and let's try to circumvent that, okay? Again, start and do whatever you're trying to do, whatever change you're trying to make for at least a week, and ask yourself, how do you feel physically and mentally? Is this sustainable? And is this enough? Now, the is this enough question is interesting, because as you go along, you may decide for weeks that the walking 15 minutes is great and it's enough. And then you may start to really get a boost of energy from it and think, you know what, I could do this a little longer every day. If I walked for 20 minutes, 7 days a week, then I'm almost hitting that 150, right? And I think one day I could do 30 minutes. Or if you have figured out the protein in your diet, then maybe you're like, okay, now it's time to add more fruits and vegetables, because that's kind of the next logical thing that I think I should do, because that's going to help me. Okay. That's the is this enough? Is it time that I can step this up to, continue to improve my health and wellness? And the truth is, while some parts of this, like strength training, you always kind of need to be moving forward a little bit to keep your muscles going and things like that. Some of this you're going to get to a point and be like, you know what? Walking it 30 minutes every day is good enough. I have the benefits I want. I feel great. It's the only thing I have time for. This is good. And then you can just stop, okay? And you can revisit it from time to time. But this isn't continuous improvement. I mean, it's a continuous improvement, and you want to feel as good as you can. But you will get to a point where you're like, I'm good with what I'm doing. And then you have your lifetime wellness habits developed. So in conclusion, in this podcast, we talked about how to answer the questions that you need to answer to determine your wellness plan. We talked about how to craft your plan and how to get started in executing it. I know that this may seem overwhelming, or when I talk about the guidelines, you're like, yeah, I don't have time to go look for those or whatever. I hear you. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be rolling out my customized wellness mastery, my 14-day jumpstart for midlife professional women to develop customized wellness habits. It's a mini course it's only 14 days, and it's a mini course just to craft and get you started on your personalized wellness blueprint. I will have tons of guidelines, tons of simple steps that you can take to really craft something that is doable and that you can get started on right away. It won't be overwhelming. It will be exactly the steps that you need to get going to achieve your sustainable wellness. Keep listening, and I will give you all the details of the mini course, like I said, in the next couple weeks. I want to thank you for tuning in to Well 50, Wellness Reimagined. And I appreciate you so much. Please make comments, send me emails, do whatever. I love hearing from you. And remember that every step you take in understanding and improving your health illuminates your path to a vibrant life, to feeling great every day, which is where we all want to be and want to live, right? Until next time, stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, stay well.